Today is Sunday, March 29, 2026. All praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, forever and ever, so let it be true. Love, honor, and respect to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and to His Holy Son, Yahweh Shai, who died for the 12 tribes of Israel. Matthew chapter 15, verse 24, Matthew chapter 10, verse 5 and 6. And double honors to the apostles of GMS, to the four major prophets, the 144,000, and the 12, go back to the four major prophets and to the 12 minor prophets, and double honors to the apostles of GMS and all my brothers that are out there preaching the word of God, the 144,000, the Akim, the saints who are risking their lives day in and day out, and to all my brothers, sisters, and children, Shalom, peace. To all my brothers, sisters, and children out there, we're on another lesson, and gonna get right into it. In the holy book of Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai chooses. Everything that happens in this world happens at the time that the Most High God, Yahweh, chooses. He sets the time for birth and the time for death. Okay. People are being born and people die. Just like right now with that war in the Middle East, in Iran. There's going to be a lot of your Marines, your Army Rangers that are going to be killed in action. And the coming could be in hours or in days, but it's coming. A time for planting and a time for pulling up. A time for killing and a time for healing. We're in that time of killing. Okay? A time for tearing down and a time for building. Right? Everything that was built is coming down. Okay? On the four corners of this earth. He sets a time for sorrow and a time for joy. The good days are over. The good times. The days of plenty, that's over. We're in the times of sorrow, just like this channel. Days of chaos, days of sorrow. Out of all the channels I have, that's my number one channel when I first came out. All right? I said, we're in the time of lamentations, mourning, and woe. I said, what am I going to name this channel? And I said, and it's days of chaos, days of sorrow. And we're in that time of sorrow, right? The good times, the kingdom is when the Lord comes back, okay? Then we're going to live with Him forever, and you're going to see true peace and prosperity in the times to come. That's going to be in the future. But the times now, these people, they think that they're living a good life, but they're miserable. And that's in the holy book of Revelation. He sets a time for sorrow and a time for joy, a time for mourning and a time for dancing. The days of dancing are coming to an end. We're in the time of mourning. A time for making love and a time for not making love. There's going to be that time when they do that draft. That draft is going to come. All right, there ain't going to be no more men left. So, and they're going to take women too, but there's going to be a lot of women that are left with their children, and their husbands are never coming back. Okay, this is going to be the greatest war, the end of all things on this earth. All right? There's nothing that's going to be like this ever. He sets a time for finding and a time for losing, a time for saving and a time for throwing away, a time for tearing and a time for mending, a time for silence and a time to talk. He sets the time for love and a time for hate. We're in that time of hate. The only love is us brothers who are preaching the word of God to you brothers, sisters, and children. That's the love. But the rest of this world, all these nations are filled with hate. Okay, they're bitter because their time is done. They're done. It's the end for them. Okay, especially for Esau. That's why in Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, his time is short. All right, and he's gonna go all out. But a time for war and a time for peace. We're in that time of war. Okay, so I'm gonna tie this with a lot of the news. There's so much things going on, but I want to keep you brothers and sisters up to date with everything that's going on. So the Pentagon is preparing to deploy approximately 3,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East amid rising tensions with Iran. What's happening now is a lot of movement. Okay, right now what we have is 2 Marine units moving in. That's roughly 8,000 Marines total. We have, and now they're saying it's up to 10,000. It keeps on changing by the day. We have naval moving fast in the Gulf. We just got word that the 82nd Airborne is being spun up, and a lot of people are questioning what is going on. Okay, because everything that comes out of the president's mouth, Donald Trump, is a lie. Okay, he said it's winding down. Everything that comes out of his mouth is arrogance. All right, that they destroyed Persia, Iran, but they're hitting. They destroyed 13 U.S. bases. Like I said, everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie, and it's to keep like. Every Monday morning when the markets open up, he'll say it's winding down, the war's coming to an end, so so this whole thing doesn't crash. They're just trying to kick the can down the road just a little longer, because what the main thing what they're doing is they're going to sacrifice everybody's money in that system, the beast system, because this system that they built, the Federal Reserve, is coming to an end. They're burning it down. So they want to sacrifice everybody's wealth, which is like 99.9% of Americans have all their money tied in with the system, with that beast system. They don't want people taking their money out. As a matter of fact, a lot of these corporations and these big banks, they're freezing the money. All right, you're not going to be able to get nothing out. Okay. You're less than the 1% that knows this truth, all right? But that's the number one thing, is the sacrifice. Your 401s, your IRAs, your pensions, that's going to be sacrificed, okay? So you have a lot of people are questioning what is going on. This is not what you call posturing at this point. Moving this many assets, this many logistics, cost a ton of money, because they're sending more carriers, more battleships. They're sending thousands of Army and Marines to the Middle East. Okay. Ground invasion imminent. Trump prepares to put boots on the ground. The last few weeks they're saying they're not going to put no boots on the ground. Like I said, everything they say is the opposite. When they said things are going good, you know it's going bad. When they said there's not going to be no boots, they're sending troops, they're sending soldiers in. Okay, you got to know the game. It's all mind psychology with these devils. All right, they have no honor, no morals, no ethics. They're the devil. But people with the World Wide Web, people can see what's going on around the world. All right, the genocide that's happening in Palestine, this attacking Iran, attacking Lebanon, and it's for the greater Israel, for the Zionists. Okay, so you said Trump prepares to put boots on the ground on Iran's Karg Island. The U.S. is expected to deploy 3,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East. All right. These men right now, they're alive, they're breathing. They don't know that the Most High is setting up a trap for them. All right. Babylon is on its way out. America, the land of bitterness, it's over. All right. It's been controlled by the Rothschilds, all right, and all their people, which are the DuPonts, the Oppenheimers, the Rockefellers, all of them. They're all go back to Esau, the grandfather, and then you have the grandson, the Amalekites, all right, the seed of wickedness, all right. Those are not the real ancient house of Judah. They're not the house of Benjamin, or not the house of the Levitical priest. Those are the Amalekites. They're the children of the devil. Okay, they're Hebrew Edomites. All right. Commander Brandon Tagmeyer said he and his command element were ordered to head to the Middle East as the war intensifies. It was previously reported that the Pentagon was considering a boots-on-the-ground operation in Karg Island. What awaits U.S. ground troops? The problem with Karg Island, the idea of seizing Karg Island as a suicide mission. Marines on the island will be saturated with Iranian missiles and drones. Impossible to resupply. U.S. Marines will suffer heavy casualties. Like I said, they're breathing air right now. Well, within hours or days, whenever they decide to attack, they're waiting for them. All right. And there's been reports, and I've been saying this for like 2-3 weeks, that over 2,000 U.S. soldiers have been killed. I can't confirm that, but this is what's been reported out in the Middle East. All right, I find the Middle East and the country, the ancient Persian, their word is more solid than anything that comes from the West. Everything in the West is just Zionist propaganda. It's all lies. They've been brainwashing the people in the West for decades. They control the newspapers, they control the narrative, they control all these TV stations, ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox. They control. The Democrats, the Republicans, they control it, okay? They've been brainwashing the masses from day one. Right, so never believe them, but like I said, they're saying at least a couple thousand U.S. soldiers are gone, okay? And they're going to hold it. You're not going to find out the truth. It's going to be probably in a year before they start coming out with this, okay? You're just starting to find out all the U.S. bases that have been hit, and that happened in the first few days of the war. We're already a month in. So it says the Pentagon was considering a boots-on-the-ground operation in Karg Island. What awaits U.S. ground troops? The problem with Karg Island, the idea of seizing the island as a suicide mission. Marines on the island would be saturated with Iranian missiles and drones. Impossible to resupply. U.S. Marines will suffer heavy casualties trying to take the island. The current troop level is inefficient for established war plans such as seizing the part of the Kabar, which would require over 200,000 personnel, soldiers. Inability to secure the strait. The forces being sent cannot open the Strait of Hormuz. Iran will be able to sink ships. Remember, they've been preparing this for over 50 years. All right, they got trenches, mazes over there, underground. They have deep underground tunnels. All right, just like we have over here at the Denver International Airport, which is only about, I would say, 10 miles east of here. And then about 50 miles south of here in Colorado Springs, you have NORAD. Well, they have their own underground tunnels with all their tanks, ships. They say their Navy and their Air Force is underground. Those were all decoys and like shells, empty buildings. All right, they made it look to Israel and the United States that these buildings were active, but they were just a decoy for the United States to drop all these bombs, and there was nothing in these buildings. Okay, like I said, they bamboozled the United States. We're watching the fall of an empire, and if you look up, Iran is called a giant killer. This is a nation that everybody looked down, thought they didn't have no power, and they're showing the world that they're about to destroy this place. All right, they're prepared. And like I said, they've been preparing this for over 50 years. War with the United States, because we've been surrounding them. All right, for decades. We've been wanting to take them out for a long time. They've been on, on the bullseye. But like I said, they have their trenches, and we're going to get into it. What awaits for your U.S. Marines and your Army Rangers? It says diplomatic fantasy and reality. The lies about peace talks, was, like I said, everything that comes out of Israel, everything that comes out of the United States, your Congress, your Senate, your president, it's all lies. Okay? It's all lies. There's no truth in these people. All right? And how they say they want to sit down with the leaders of Iran. They're not going to fall for the trap. They sat down twice and many times before that, but the last two times, that one that was in June, they were sitting down for peace negotiations when Israel and the United States was there. But in June of 2025, they said it was only the Zionists, Israel, the Amalekites. They attacked into Iran and bombed their nuclear facilities. But the United States Air Force was there too. Okay, they just left that out of CNN and Fox News. All right, but you go back to my videos, I was telling the world we were right there. Okay, because they're them two. You could add three demons in a pot. All right, because you have NATO, you have the United States, and you have Israel. Okay, and NATO right now is turning their backs against the United States. They don't want nothing, no part of this, because they see the trap. And not only that, they're in range. Iran could hit France. They can hit England. Okay? Remember, Russia has been selling them hypersonic missiles, and that's why they've been destroying all the U.S. bases. And Russia is helping them hit these bases. All right? They're finding U.S. troops everywhere. All right? As a matter of fact, they have them on the run. All right, United States soldiers are on the run. That they're putting them in hotels. They can't even be in these military bases. They've been destroyed. Okay, and you're not hearing all this on ABC and CBS. Everything you hear is lies coming out of the president's mouth, that we destroyed everything. No, they're destroying everything. All the U.S. assets are being destroyed. Okay. It doesn't look good for the United States. So in this productive negotiations, noting that Iran refuses to talk to the United States following previous deceptions, like I said, back in 2025, June of 2025, right when they were negotiating a peace treaty with an olive branch, they were attacking. And then when they were talking, the day they were attacked, when the United States and Israel went and killed the Ayatollah, they were having peace negotiations. So no one, the U.S., their credibility is gone. All right, they have no honor. The whole world can see. They have eyes. They see who's the who's the evil one, who's the master of evil, the master of ceremonies. It's Israel, the United States, and NATO. Who controls it? The Rothschild family. They want the whole world. All right, and all them. They control your Republicans, your lobbyists. They control that whole lobby. It's all run by Zionists. All right, all these trillionaires and billionaires. They own the United States. All right, and I don't care. All of you people could protest. This war is on. It ain't gonna stop, and they're gonna take your kids. They're gonna be picking up your children, and they're gonna fight in the end of the world war. All right. This is their last. Their last hurrah. All right. Iran announces that the Strait of Hormuz is closed to the U.S. and Israel. How Iran is asserting control over the critical maritime checkpoint. 13 U.S. bases destroyed, uninhabitable. Iran's missile and drone strikes have severely damaged U.S. bases across the Middle East, forcing troops into temporary and secret locations. Key installations in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia have been hit, disrupting operation and logistics with reinforcements underway and tensions escalating. The conflict is entering a dangerous new phase with global implications. Iran has made a shocking claim amid the escalating U.S.-Iran conflict. An IRGC spokesperson has mocked the U.S. President Donald Trump, alleging that American soldiers are fleeing bases across the Middle East. And it's true. And it's true. The reports are out. You could go to the news out in India, the Middle East, Russia. They have the reports that these U.S. bases, they have the satellite images showing that these bases have been destroyed. All right, they destroyed the satellite. They destroyed those, the THAAD. What is it? The Patriot system. I mean, they're destroying everything. Their missiles are hitting target, alleging that American soldiers are fleeing for their lives across the Middle East and that all U.S. bases have been eliminated. U.S. caught lying about casualties in the Iran war, which is true. They've been lying. We really don't know how many soldiers have been killed, but it's more than 13. They're saying 13 and 300 wounded. All right. All these bases had thousands. There's over 50,000 U.S. soldiers in these bases that have been hit. And they're saying 300 wounded, 13 dead. They're hitting them with missiles and drones. Like I said, there could be 1,000 or 2,000, but it's more than 13. Okay, like I said, they did this in World War II. They keep it from the public. They don't want people to panic. Like you don't see no one panicking over here. Everybody's just having a real good time. And it's been, the weather here in Colorado, I've been here my whole life. The month of March is the hottest month ever. We're having temperatures like if it's June. All right, we've had 4 days that hit 88 degrees. Today was it was in the 80s. Yesterday was 82 degrees. And it's been unbelievable. And Pueblo, not only about 2 hours away from it, it hit 96 degrees a few days. So southern Colorado is more of a desert, it's more hotter. Colorado Springs, and when you get to Pueblo, it gets hotter. But in the 90s, they've had a few days in the 90s in the month of March. The trees are already blooming here, right? 2 months early. Colorado, especially here in the city, the trees don't bloom until May. I seen trees with leaves on it in the end of February. So it's gonna get hotter. It is getting hotter in the Southwest and the West Coast. It's gonna get hot. Like I said, the states of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada, and Southern California, they're done. All right, because they're running out of water. and they're not going to tell the people until it's too late. They're not going to be able to sell their properties. But we warned you, just like out on the East Coast. The East Coast is finished. Russia has nuclear missiles that they could shoot into the ocean, and the cities, all the eastern cities are going to be gone. All right, we told you. All right, dark days ahead. U.S. caught lying about casualties in Iran war. Massive cover-up by the U.S. government regarding the true extent of casualties and damage sustained during the initial strikes of the war with Iran. Discrepancies between initial Pentagon reports and subsequent revelations about the severity of attacks on U.S. forces, lying about casualties. The Pentagon initially described attacks as causing only minor injuries, but reports later revealed hundreds of service members suffered severe brain trauma, shrapnel injuries, and burns. Sergeant First Class Corey Hooks described the drone attack that destroyed the building he was in. Significant damages. At least 17 U.S. sites were damaged in the conflict, with commercial satellite imagery showing extensive destruction that contradicts narratives of minimal impact. Wartime censorship, and that's what's happening right now. You're not going to hear this on ABC, CBS, NBC. Okay, it's called wartime censorship. They don't want you to know the truth because you can't handle the truth. Okay, you can't handle the truth. The people of this world, 99.9, they can't handle it. They've been living a fantasy world. They're in a fantasy land. Okay, they're not in reality. The only men on this earth that know what's going on are the prophets and the apostles, and the 144,000, and now you brothers and sisters, the great multitude. You're less than the 1%. Okay, but these people, they can't handle the truth. All right, so it's called wartime censorship, or a government cover-up, often aimed at maintaining public morale and security. Pentagon information control. Governments may sanitize news, often failing to disclose the full extent of damage to bases or civilian casualties to keep the morale high. Preventing morale loss. The goal is to prevent public dissent, or the feeling that the war is being lost. That's why they're keeping the truth away from you. Like I said, all these bases have been hit with over 50,000. Each base, some have 8,000, some bases have 12,000 soldiers. Okay, over 50,000 are on these bases, and they all got hit. They're no longer on the bases. They had to put them in cities and hotels and underground facilities. They're trying to find anywhere where they could put these soldiers because they're hitting them with drones. Every night, they're sending dozens of missiles to these bases. Outside of bases are finding them in these hotels with drones. And they're throwing dozens of missiles every night in Israel. They're destroyed them cities over there. All right, like I said, it's gonna escalate to a nuclear showdown. There's gonna be a nuclear event happening soon, where 3-4 cities get hit with nukes. All right, then you're gonna start that third quarter, where they're gonna do the ruled lockdowns, and this ruled lockdown might start happening within weeks, just with the energy crisis. All right, look that up. What's happening in Asia, Australia, all right, New Zealand. They're running out of fuel. Gas stations are becoming empty. Within weeks, you're going to see all these stores are going to be ransacked. All right, you have all these dummies are all going to be running to get paper towels and tissue to wipe their ass. All right, the panic is going to start coming. All right, because those Gas here in Denver is hitting $4. I know in Arizona it's hitting $5. In California it's 6 to 8. Okay, the West Coast is getting hit the hardest, and Seattle, I think it's in that $5-6 range too. The West Coast is getting hit the hardest. Okay, but diesel is already hitting 5. I think in some states it's over 6.50, getting close to $7. It's going to get bad. Everything's going to double and triple. This is the year of hyperinflation. All right, this, like I said, this war could go for years. All right, they were in Afghanistan for over 20 years. Iran, the ancient Persians. It's a black raven. What was I going to say? These people are not prepared for what's coming, okay? They've been living a nice, charmed life. It's coming to an end. The Pentagon Information Controlled Government, we're going to go down a little bit, to keep morale high, preventing morale loss. The goal is to prevent panic, dissent, or the feeling that the war is being lost. And the war is being lost, all right? You have men that were in the U.S. military, colonels, generals. These are men who have been are retired, and they're breaking it down out there, man. That we're in a big mess. But like I said, the Rothschilds don't care. It's purging the population. All right, send all the Marines in there, send all these Army, and then they're going to get all these reservists. And we'll break that down tomorrow. The next day, there was a letter sent out to all these reservists, all these weekend warriors. They all received letters to get their house in order, that we're living in a time of World War III. They're going to start taking them guys, and then they're going to start doing the draft. All right? They don't care. They're going to take people, and they don't care. Iran is going to be a big graveyard for American soldiers. Okay? But remember, Russia's going to jump in, and the Chinese are going to jump in. All right? Because they're getting hurt the hardest. The countries on that side of the world are getting hurt big time, because 70 to 90% of the oil that China and I believe India, and there's a few other countries, it's 70 to 90% of the oil. Okay? And they're all going to blame the United States and Israel when their economy goes into the gutter. The world's economy is bad. All right? But now it's on a whole new level. It's not coming back. It's never coming back. The times that you had last year and the years before, go back to 2019 to 2015, those are going to be like, you're not even going to remember those days. Those days are long gone. All right, you're going to see people eating out of trash cans, okay? Let me see here. U.S. orders more warships, thousands of Marines to the Middle East. The Boxer Amphibious Ready Group, carrying the 11th Marine Unit, is the second Naval and Marine Force order to join the war in Iran. The U.S. military is surging more ground, air, and sea forces to the Middle East, including nearly 5,000 Marines as the war with Iran approaches its fourth week. All right, because you got Marines coming from San Diego, and then you have a unit of Marines coming from Japan. So they're coming from all over the world to the Middle East. All right, these young men don't even know this is their last days on Earth. All right, the U.S. military is surging more ground, air, and sea forces to the Middle East, including the 5,000 Marines as the war with Iran approaches its fourth week. This week, the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group left port in San Diego on Wednesday, ahead of schedule. The Ready Group includes the Wasp-class amphibious assault ship, the USS Boxer, as well as the dock landing ship, the USS Comstock, and amphibious transport dock ship, the USS Portland. The latter two left port On Thursday, the Boxer amphibious ready group is carrying the roughly 2,500 Marines of the 11th Marine Unit. They are the second amphibious ready group and Marine unit to be ordered to the Middle East this month. The Tripoli ARG is currently en route, having recently entered the Indian Ocean after leaving Japan. It is carrying roughly 2,200 Marines from the 31st Marine Unit. Both the Ready Group and the Marines are based out of Japan. The Tripoli is carrying its own air wing, including an F-35B jet with the Marine Fighter Attack Squadron, the VMFA-121. The two ready groups would join the already large buildup of the American forces in the region, alongside more than 50,000 troops stationed in the Middle East. The United States sent dozens of aircraft, including fighter jets and bombers, to the region, as well as two carrier strike groups prior to the start of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran on February 28th. The USS Gerald R. Ford had to break off from the war and travel to a port following a fire on the ship that damaged the carrier. Now this is another, they're saying there was a fire that broke out in the laundry room. So this ship, this U.S. carrier that has over 5,000 sailors on it, they had to leave. Iran said that they've been hitting these ships with drones. Okay, but the U.S. is reporting there was somebody was doing their laundry and a fire broke out. Okay, but they're taking off. I'm still here at the park. So the USS Gerald R. Ford had to break off from the war and travel to a port following a fire on the ship that damaged the carrier. Iran's fierce attacks escalate war with America. Iran strikes U.S. Army base in Saudi Arabia. This has happened Saturday. American troops reeling after the deadly blow. Iran wounds U.S. troops and damages refueling aircraft. They destroyed their airplanes, or they're hitting these bases. Wherever they can find their planes, they're destroying them. And these are those refueling planes that refuel these U.S. bombers and your aircraft out there. They're destroying them. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars being lost just on this hit alone on Saturday morning. U.S. troops and damages refueling aircraft in attack on American base in Saudi Arabia. Iran has escalated its campaign by targeting U.S. military infrastructure in the Middle East, launching a combined missile and drone strike on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. The attack, at least 15 American soldiers were wounded. In Iran, they're saying hundreds perished and hundreds are wounded. All right, they said there was on their satellites, it shows ambulances taking dozens and dozens of these men to nearby hospitals, and a lot of them sometimes they have to ship them, put them on planes and send them out to Germany. Soldiers wounded with two in critical and reportedly damaged critical aerial assets, including a refueling and surveillance aircraft. According to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the strike successfully breached base defenses and hit the core of aerial refueling operations, causing significant damage to aircraft and logistical systems. Like I said, man, it ain't looking too good. Trench warfare is a type of land warfare where opposing forces dig extensive, zigzagging underground to attack the enemy. They've had decades to dig these trenches. And like I said, it showed one of the Iranian government officials, and he said, "We've been waiting for your soldiers." Okay? Iran mobilizes 1 million soldiers for American ground invasion. The war drums are growing louder in the Middle East, and Iran says it's ready for the fight. Iran is battle ready for a possible ground confrontation with the U.S. as troop movements intensifies across the region. The U.S.-Israeli war against Iran is nearly 1 month in, and amid the ongoing escalation threats and warnings, Iran is touting that it is able to tap more than 1 million fighters for a potential ground confrontation with the United States. The Trump administration has explored the option of sending U.S. forces to take control of the island for leverage to pressure Iran into reopening the Strait of Hormuz. But military officials caution that such an operation would carry serious risk. Iran has reinforced the island with additional air defense systems, including portable missiles, and has planted mines along the likely landing zones. They're putting mines all over. So when these soldiers go onto land, they're going to be blown up to pieces. U.S. prepares for week. Oh, this is the Washington Journal. You can look that up. That was today. And the headline is U.S. prepares for weeks-long ground war in Iran. The Pentagon prepares for weeks of ground operations in Iran. So all this lies for weeks and weeks. No boots on the ground is all lies. Everything that comes out of these people is lies. Okay. Their thing is the Rothschilds. They want Iran destroyed, and then they're going after that nuclear strike on Russia. That's their plans, and they don't care if it goes a few cities get hit. All right, like I said, it's in the book of Joel, it's in the book of Revelations. It talks about nuclear war. The first death was in the times of Noah, when God flooded the earth. That was the first death. The second death is nuclear fire. That's the time that we're living in. We're living in awesome times. Hope all you brothers and sisters were edified. I wanted to keep you up to date with the news. And most high willing, tomorrow, the next day, I'm going to put a lot of scriptures together, because we're living in that time of war. All right. The red horse, the black horse, and the pale horse. The water. Thank you for watching. Most high willing, I'll be here tomorrow. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, forever and ever. So let it be true. The Lord, His Son, is coming soon. Thank you for watching.